Cheat Code Spanish.
Welcome to Cheat Code Spanish. Now, after 10 years of living in Latin America and also being a certified Spanish teacher, I always get the same question, and that's, what would I do if I had to start all over from scratch? If I had to start over again from day one? And first things first, I would want to change my mindset and just really have more patience with myself, because I wanted the things to happen so fast and I thought that they would just happen naturally. Now, one of the things I get from people when they're trying to acquire a second language, especially Spanish, is they tell me the same thing. I'm not good at languages. And I'm here to tell you, if you're telling me this in English, that is just not true. It's actually impossible. Now, this would be like an athlete at the top of their game in one sport saying they're not good at sports. No, if you're the top, let's say, football player like Mbappe, and you try to play rugby, yes, at first you're going to suck. But there's a lot of skills between football and rugby football that can be transferred, right? And same goes for one of the greatest of our time, right? The GOAT, in my opinion, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. So in 1993, the Bulls finished their first three-peat, which is crazy because they would go on to have another three-peat. And Jordan retires from basketball. It's a shock to everyone, but you know what? His father was murdered, and he just really needed some time to do something else. He needed time away from basketball. So him, at the top of his game, okay, a worldwide phenomenon known everywhere, decides to play baseball, a sport he hadn't played competitively for over 15 years. Now, the media had a field day with this because Jordan really had no flaws in his basketball game. People say he couldn't go left, but I'm not buying that. So he tries out for like a AA team. I think it was called the Barons or something like that. And he's striking out, he's getting thrown out at first. He's missing ground balls. He's missing pop-ups. And you know what? He kept doing that for a while, and then eventually he got better. Now, Jordan eventually, because he's Jordan, he put in the work, but he also has a name for himself. He gets on the AA squad, and then I think he got moved up to Chicago White Sox. Now, right city, wrong team, neither here nor there. He ends up playing for them. Maybe, let's say he gets a base hit. That is impressive, okay? To go from not playing a sport for 15 years and to change to baseball from basketball, which they don't have a lot in common, to be honest, to play for a professional baseball team, even if it was for one game, that is amazing. Now, let's think about yourself and your native language. You might feel like the MJ of English, right? You can shoot the three. You can dunk from the free throw line. You can do that sweet reverse layup. Now, let's get over to Spanish, and you might feel like you're playing water polo, okay? You don't swim that well, don't float very well, not sure about the breathing. There's just so many issues, but you can't tell me that you're not good at sports, all right? You can't tell me that you're not good at languages because you're speaking a language right now. What you have to figure out, first and foremost, are what skills are transferable. So in all sports, all right, the one thing that's going to be transferable is always going to be cardio, right? Your conditioning. So that can always be transferable. Your competitiveness, okay, how competitive are you? All right, when it comes to language, how well do you communicate? So start thinking about how would you like to communicate. When you think about conditioning, that's going to be more like your grammar, your vocabulary, like how many words are you going to need to be able to access this language. Same way, you need a certain amount of cardio if you've been watching the World Cup to play soccer, right? If you don't have that amount of cardio, all the skills in the world will not help you. So you will need a certain minimum amount of words in order to access the language. So start thinking about it like that. Break it down into different pieces and realize that you probably never will be as good at your second or third language as you are with your first language. Now, I'm in the process currently to learn Mandarin Chinese, all right? For most of you guys that know, I live in Taiwan. This is after 12 years of living in Latin America. I do not speak Mandarin as well as I speak Spanish. Claro que no, but that's okay. And Spanish and Mandarin have absolutely nothing in common, like almost nothing in common. So I'm starting over completely from scratch. Now, if I was going from Mandarin to Japanese, some of the characters are similar. Some of the sounds are very similar because they have a shared history. Same way with like Spanish, Portuguese, French, and even English, who has a lot of Latin bases. Think of it in the way that this is your second language and you're going to have to start pretty much from square one. And the beautiful thing about that is no one expects you to be the Michael Jordan of your second language. No one expected Michael Jordan to go out there and play baseball like Frank Thomas, who was the best White Sox player at the time. And he never did. And he never was. And that's perfectly fine. He was able to get on the field. And that's the whole point. Going back to what I would do differently, I would change my mindset. I think there's a lot of myths about language learning that need to be debunked. And first things first. We always believe that children have an advantage when it comes to language learning. And this is true to a certain extent, but I'm going to tell you why it's not 100% true. They have no biological advantages, right? Now, think about it like a computer. A brand new computer has more capacity to retain information, but it's a computer. You have to give it programs. You have to tell it it's programming, and it's going to do what you tell it to do because that's what a computer is made. That's kind of like the childlike brain. It is still in its beginning phases of programming. So it hasn't been told that they're bad at languages yet. So that's the advantage that they have. Also, children don't have anything else to go off of. So whatever operating system you put into a Mac, that's what it's going to run off of, right? Same with an Android or a PC. Now, for adults, our biggest issue is we get in our own head. So the moment we get frustrated with the second language, we go right back to English. And if you constantly do that, if you go back to English or you use ChatGPT or you use Google Translate, you're not actually going to learn. Where a 3-year-old doesn't have access to Google Translate. They don't have access to ChatGPT, and they don't have access to another language, right? You give them, they're learning English. It's the only language that they know. They're going to pick up English eventually. I know you're going to say, well, what about children that learn 2 languages from early on? Again, they don't have any context. To them, that's normal, right? So let's say they've been learning English for 3 years, and at age 3, you throw Spanish at them. They're going to pick it up like a fish does to water because that they don't know anything different. You're just throwing another game at them. They're going to gamify it. They're going to have fun with it. They're going to make mistakes along the way, and you're going to think that they're cute. Example, when I was a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, I could not pronounce my grandmother's name, which was just grandma to me, okay? Didn't even know she had a real name until I was like 12. And so I was calling her Bama. How I got a B sound from a GR, I have no idea. But the adults in the household thought it was cute. Oh, Bama, Bama, no, it's grandma. I'm like, yeah, Bama. And they're like, okay, this kid, something's wrong with him, right? Well, eventually I was able to pronounce grandma. And as an adult, if I said Bama, yes, something would be wrong. Same thing is going to happen to you in Spanish, right? You're going to be trying to say a word and you're going to say it incorrectly, and people are going to correct you if they're nice. And if not, they don't say anything. Actually, that's the worst thing that could happen. And so you actually want to be corrected, and you have to be open to that constructive criticism, to that feedback. You're going to be in a situation. I had a friend, she was trying to say she was afraid, which for her would have been miedo. And she said mierda, right? And mierda means shit, does not mean fear. And I've heard Spanish speakers do the same thing in English. They're trying to say sheet, like bed sheet, and they say shit. It happens, all right? They're trying to say beach, and they say bitch. Okay, cool, it's funny. We explain to them the difference in pronunciation, and they still may struggle with it, but it's a lesson that you're going to learn. Everyone wants to say that they're embarrassed in Spanish, and they say embarazada or embarazado, and then that just means that you're pregnant, which obviously I'm not pregnant. And most of the time, the people that say that aren't pregnant, okay? Vergüenza is the word if you want to say that you're embarrassed in Spanish. So you have a lot of those false friends out there, that words that sound similar in English and Spanish and different. And so I think the road that you need to take is having a mindset that is first and foremost not going to be as easy as your native language. Also, that you're going to have to make mistakes. Like, it's an input-output thing. The more you got in, the more you can have come out, and you're going to mess up along the way. That's going to get you to your promised land a lot quicker. I think one of the quotes that I recently heard is, your failures will plant the seeds of your success. Your failures will plant the seeds of your success. you're going to have to fail forward. Now, if you're serious about language learning, go ahead and put cheat code in the comments. I will give you 30-day access to my program, my course, Cheat Code Spanish. I'm going to give you access to the Essentials course and the Weekend Warrior. 30 days. All right. So this is for, I'm going to give the first 20 people to comment. All right. The first 20 people comment. Maybe I might feel more generous and give a discount to people after the first 20. And guys, if you like this type of content, please like, comment, subscribe, and watch. Holla at your boy. Peace.
Cheat code Spanish.